here we are, and good morning. I'm early because we have a 6-page reading, and yeah. And I'm hoping that it's not like the last time we had a 6-page reading, which I thought was 4 pages too long. But, hey, we can't all, I don't always agree with Ernest. So, it's not that I think he's wrong, it's just, all right, so we are doing Living the Science of Mind. Like I said, we do have a 6-page reading today, so let's get through the housekeeping. And all the housekeeping is me reminding you that we are Creative Life Spiritual Center. The website is creativelife.org. The constant contact email is info@creativelife.org. If you email that, you get 1 email a week, unless something unusual happens, because we do live in hurricane country. And it tells you what's going on for the week and the month. The hot links are hot. If it says click here now, it means it. And then it's a blind CC, meaning nobody will see your email. Nobody will get your email from us, from that email, from that newsletter. So please feel free to do that. And then you can, just briefly, the social media, because we do this on social media. We do not monetize the social media. We don't want to deal with the ads any more than you do. So what we ask you to do instead is to engage with the pages. Like, subscribe, follow, based on which platform you're on. Because when you, if you allow notifications when you subscribe or follow, then it'll let you know when we upload new videos or when we go live. So that you have that at your fingertips. And then if you will engage with the individual post by reacting, commenting, and sharing, and I say reacting because you can like them, you can love them, you can wow them, you can laugh at them. Because, I don't know about David, but I know I'm funny. So, you're welcome to laugh. So, but when you engage with the individual posts, it bumps us in the algorithms. More people see our stuff, which we think we have good tools to share, and we hope you agree. So please do that. We are Creative Life Spiritual Center or Creative Life Spark. So if you don't see Creative Life Spiritual Center, look for Creative Life Spark. And I'm the running Rev Ryan on the social medias that I am on. So there is that. Okay. So let's get on with this. I have told you my pet theory. I believe that this book came out, where the book came from is the at-home course. There used to be an at-home course at the end of in the Science of Mind magazine. You mail off for it, and they would mail you a lesson a week for 48 weeks. They did bind it into a book. Well, it took 6 books. And you can get that. What I recommend you do is go to the Science of Mind archives, and use their Amazon link. Because if you do that, you're still going to get it from Amazon, but the Science of Mind will get some of the money. And that's very important because Kathy works really hard at Reverend Kathy works very hard at the archives. So, but what I think where the essays came from initially is people read the textbook and had questions, and they came to the lectures and they had questions, and this is his way of answering them. It's one of those books that you can flip it open and pretty much any page is going to say something that will be relevant to whatever you're dealing with that day. So it's a pretty amazing book, and I'm enjoying. I've never sat down and read it cover to cover, just like until I read the textbook live on Facebook. I'd never read the textbook cover to cover. Have I read all of it? Probably. Just never cover to cover. And I know in this book, there are essays that I've never read. So, I'm changing that now. So, okay, let me get my light on. I'll get my trusty highlighter open. And the essay is called Substance and Supply, or the Law of Opulence. Naturally, we all want what we want when we want it. One of the many criticisms made of New Thought has been that it is materialistic, since those interested are striving to better themselves materially. This criticism is based on a most materialistic foundation, since it divides substance from supply, God from human, and life from living. It makes the kingdom of heaven a far-off divine event and separates earth from the eternal glory. It is just the opposite of the simple but direct statement of Jesus when he said, "What things soever you desire and the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Okay, those are two different quotes, just in case. All right. The idea that it is wrong for humanity to pray for or treat to get what we call material good is based on the belief that reality and actuality are separated by a gulf which can be bridged only through individual suffering, impoverishment, and misery. That humanity may be redeemed from all this misery in some uncertain future, but not here and now. Yet Jesus stood in the midst of here and now and proclaimed that the kingdom of heaven is within and at hand. Ooh. We find then that the teaching of Jesus is quite at variance with the idea that it is wrong to ask for what we desire. For he did not say, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe you... Oh, hang on. You know what? I left a word out again. Okay, let's try this again. We find then that the teaching of Jesus is quite at variance with the idea that it is wrong to ask for what we desire. For did he not say, what things soever ye desire, when ye pray, believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. And he cites his source, Mark 11:24. He was announcing a principle, and all principles are universal, changeless, and ever present. All universal principles are available to those who understand them, and they immediately respond to anyone who subjects themselves to the way in which they work. For instance, water will reach its own level by its own weight. Water will flow downhill. We obey this principle, we use it, we apply it, but we cannot go contrary to that principle and compel water to flow uphill. You know what? That's not true. Yes, you can. By weight, but it means narrowing the aperture. So you can convince water to flow uphill, but you have to narrow the pipe. So, he's not always right. The Romans did it. That's how their aqueducts worked. But mostly they started from a really high place. It is the same with electricity. The electrician can do anything they wish to with the principle, provided that they realize that it flows from a higher to a lower potential. Now, that is true. He cannot make it act contrary to its own nature. So Jesus was proclaiming the nature of a certain principle and teaching how to use it. Just like I said with water, you can make it flow uphill, but the way you do it, you have to know how to do it. I actually do know how to do it because I took physics and thermodynamics. I think I learned that in thermodynamics. Jesus announced the principle of substance and supply, or the law of opulence. He clearly taught that it is right for us to have what we want, provided we subject our desires to the divine will and the divine necessity. Just what do we mean by the divine will and the divine necessity? Okay. I want to know the answer to that question. Divine will means the nature of God or spirit, and the divine necessity means the law of cause and effect. Jesus announced that when our will complies with the infinite harmony, the law of cause and effect, we'll have no choice other than to obey our will. We have elsewhere discussed the idea that the divine will is towards life. Since being the very principle of life, it cannot contradict itself. It must be toward life. It is toward givingness, since in giving it expresses itself. Therefore, we know that as far as the divine is concerned, it is always its will that we be self-expressed, for God is expressed through the expression of humanity. Kind of an important point there. All right. There cannot be the slightest question but that the divine will is towards giving us what we want in the way in which we want it, provided we first have complied with the divine will, which is harmony, peace, love, goodness, truth, and beauty. If we have complied with the divine will, the law of cause and effect, which has no purpose of its own to execute, but is a blind but intelligent force, must bring the pattern of our desire to us. Jesus stated this proposition in its most simple terms when he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." That makes sense. Okay. He was describing the necessity of our union with the divine will, to which all else is added, and all else he included in what things soever ye desire. Whether these things are automobiles, undershirts, or sacks of beans makes no difference. Included within the whatsoever must be all things, past, present, and future. Thus, Jesus tells us to comply with the divine will. Next, he lays down the way in which the law will answer us. This is the divine necessity, the law of cause and effect. He said, "Believe that ye receive them, and ye shall have them. And again, for whosoever hath, to them shall be given." Here he is stating the law of cause and effect as it operates through human consciousness. In no place did this august teacher, this remarkable genius, deny humanity the right to possess and use the entire gift of God, wholeness of life, and its manifestation. When anyone tells us that it is wrong to use spiritual methods for promoting material well-being, we need not be misled. Such a philosophy contradicts the entire evolution of science, the inspiration of revelation, of divine insight, and the unfoldment of human personality. It is a philosophy of materialism based upon the superstition that there is God and something else. We do not have to enter into theoretical discussions with anyone, but if we are wise, we will remove all barriers from our imagination and come to the Spirit of truth with a childlike mind, expecting to receive good. Oh, okay. Come to the Spirit of truth with a childlike mind, expecting to receive good. That is always the way you want to enter treatment. Let us approach this idea of substance and supply and the law of opulence with a firm conviction that the eternal is forever saying to the temporal, that the Spirit is forever proclaiming to the child, "All that I have is thine." Even though manna falls from heaven, we must accept it. The manna is substance, and our receptivity of it is our supply. Okay, what? One of the biggest things in Science of Mind, and you just heard it, is God can only give you what you will accept, what you're willing to accept. And that's the important part. It's not what you can accept, it's what you're willing to accept. Because you can accept a lot more than you probably do. The law of opulence is in us, an ever-increasing mental equivalent of the good which we desire. The law of mental equivalence says that we can possess any objective thing, provided we first have a subjective mental image of it, and provided that this subjective mental image is a real embodiment within our thought. From what we know about any law in nature, it is safe to say that the more broadly we generalize a principle, the more completely shall we be able to specialize such a principle. What? Okay. More broadly we generalize a principle, the more completely we should be able to. Yeah. Okay. This means that the more we know about the nature of the principle and the way it works, the more widely we shall be able to use it. Okay. Jesus proclaimed that within the kingdom of God are contained all gifts. In other words, he generalized that principle which is to be specialized. He announced the right idea of substance may be applied to everyday needs. So he found money in the fish's mouth, fed the 5,000, brought the boat immediately to the shore, and did many other things which people looked upon as miracles or divine interference with the universal law, but which Jesus understood to be natural and normal. It was just as natural for Jesus to turn water into wine as it would be for us to draw a glass of water from the tap. He did not feel that he was concentrating any power or coercing any divine favors. He did not even petition God. He understood the law of cause and effect. He knew that the substance takes form through faith, is shaped by conviction, and projected upon the screen of human experience through the mold of mental equivalence. We should throw away all doubt, fear, and despair and enter joyously into our inheritance. But the very law which we are using should teach us that we shall arrive at the consummation of our desire only by starting from where we are. We are told to despise not the day of small beginnings. Each one must start with the mental equivalent that they have today, and by enlarging upon it, increase their capacity to receive, which was exactly what the reading yesterday was. Loose the consciousness. It's about spending time every day enlarging your consciousness, in using your imagination to imagine more than you did the day before. So that he's circling back here. In this connection, we must remember that the law of cause and effect, the universal subjectivity, has no intention or purpose of its own relative to any individual, which means it doesn't judge. It's not going to say, hey, you don't deserve that. But it's also not going to say, no, that's not a good idea. Two sides to the same coin there. We make up its mind for it. As far as we are concerned, it has no thought for us other than the thought we ourselves entertain about life. It does not know that $1 million is more money than $10. It does not know that an ocean is larger than a fish pond, that a mountain is more than 3 feet high, and yet it creates form through idea. For as we have elsewhere stated, there is no big or little in the law. This is the crux of the whole matter. Not 2 powers, but 1. What we need to change is not the law, but our use of it. We have no power or limitation to contend against, no evil to fight, no hell to cool off. How wonderful, how fortunate, and what a happy outlook. If we can become more than our inner consciousness, we shall have more in our external environment. The law, having no mind of its own relative to us, and being compelled by its very nature to follow the patterns of our thought, is and must remain our obedient servant. But we have affirmed a negation, have declared that there is not enough good to go around. Hence, we lack the experience of that good which we fail to perceive. Okay. Ugh. We must not only know that there is good enough to go around, but we must specifically announce this good. And that's kind of important right there. It's like, you can know it, but you gotta be convinced of it. So, hence the announcing. Okay. Oh. It stands to reason that if the law knows about us only what we know about ourselves, and that if what we hold to be true about life itself furnishes us with our mental patterns, then the law knows about us only what we believe about life. Therefore, the very belief in the reality of evil creates the evil believed in. Yikes. Well, that's a word I hadn't said in a while. Yikes. Therefore, the very belief in the reality of evil creates the evil believed in. Or, as Jesus said, all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. The belief that there is not enough good to go around makes it difficult, if not impossible, for the good to be experienced by the one who entertains such a belief. And a whole lot of us believe that, So, yes, we're dealing with each our individual beliefs, but we're also dealing with race consciousness. We're also dealing with all the talking heads that go on all the social medias or all the medias, and say there's not enough to go around. Make sure you get yours first. Or there's not enough to go around. I'm going to get mine first. They're shouting it to the ethers. They're believing it. They're creating it. And unfortunately, they're creating it in everybody's reality, not just their own. Okay. So, we got to step up our game here. We must reverse all of these. We must reverse all these beliefs and accept the simple proposition that God is good, that this is fundamental to a correct idea of substance and supply, and the operation of the law of opulence. God is good. This good is ours now. This should be our permanent and increasing expectancy. We should expect so much good that we should conceive of it as being more than we ever have time to enjoy. We should feel the presence of this good and appreciate its meaning and give thanks for its manifestation. There should be a combination of gratitude, expectancy, and joy. Wait, there it is. Let's save that line. There should be an enthusiastic recognition that we are in partnership with the divine and that God and company cannot fail. And then there's a footnote that said, see page 413 ED. Oh, which is in the back and it says God and company. So to explain what he means by God and company. We're not going to do that today. We'll get there when we get there. But there is a footnote there. Okay. When it comes to an actual and specific practice, we should definitely know that the particular thing we desire, we already have. In this way, we form a mold in our thought and a definite one around which the creative energy of mind may play. This is our bowl of acceptance, catching, as it were, from the horn of plenty, that which we are able to receive. One of the ways that I wrapped my head around this is by remembering that if I can conceive of it, it already exists in the mind of God. Whether it exists in the material plane or not doesn't matter. It already exists in the mind of God. Therefore, I can have it. If that helps you, I hope. This law of mental equivalence should never be overlooked, for it is the law which decides how much of this infinite thing we are to experience. We cannot experience more than we can accept, but we can expect more than we have been experiencing. If we are willing to start from where we are today, creating a little bigger, broader, and better mental equivalent than we had yesterday, we shall progressively advance. Since we are dealing with an infinite principle, no possible limitation can be placed upon our use of it, just as there is no number we can conceive of which cannot have a like amount added to it, or which cannot be multiplied by itself. And just as there is no place where this sequence of numbers can stop, there is no place where the infinite possibilities can cease to unfold. The only place where they appear to cease unfolding is where our expectancy and understanding inhibit their action through us, for the operation of the law is always mathematically correct. The law of cause and effect, having no mind of its own, is, as far as we're concerned, must follow the patterns of our individual thoughts, which is why it's always a really good idea to understand what your individual thoughts are. Weed your garden on a regular basis and plant the seeds that you want. In actual practice, we make definite statements, as we have repeatedly emphasized. If you want a home, treat for a home. If you want an automobile, treat definitely for an automobile. And if you want a certain sum of money, treat definitely for that sum of money. There's nothing materialistic about this, since all things emanate from pure spirit and return again to it. In actual practice, having first complied with the law and with the spirit, do not hesitate to work definitely for what you want. Not to do so would be to deny the very principle which you have affirmed, to inhibit the operation of the very law which you have come to understand. Any intelligent perspective of the operation of this law should cause us to know that when we work, we should work definitely for what we want. There is no other way. In other words, don't beat around the bush. Ask for what you want. Or state what you want, I guess I should say, instead of asking for it. The spirit can give us only what we take, and our taking is mental. How can the mind accept what it rejects, entertain what it refuses to listen to, possess what it casts out, or have what it will not take? This is not only unthinkable, it is impossible. And that is the law of opulence according to Ernest Holmes. I appreciate the way that they've arranged the essays because they're building on each other. And he's talking about you can only have what you're willing to accept, and you can go in every day and increase what you're willing to accept. And that frequently we are what's getting in our own way. You know, yes, we and race consciousness. You know, because as spiritual beings have a human experience, we are bound to it to the degree that we allow ourselves to be bound to it. And I'm not saying that I'm not bound to it, because I definitely am. And every now and again, you meet that rare individual that just is not bound by race consciousness at all. Or at least they are bound to it to much less of a degree than the rest of us. You know, here we are. All right. Well, that is the reading for today. And I did not think that one was 4 pages too long. I thought that one was a really good one. So I hope that you find it helpful. All right. So now I'm going to encourage you to have a great day, a wondrous day, a fantastic day, a magical day, an enchanted day, a wonderful day, an awesome day, an amazing day, a take care of business day, a let's wind this week down day, a drink plenty of water day. I brought mine with me today because I knew it was a long reading. Be aware of the heat day, take care of yourself day, a stay out of the sunlight between 10 and 2 day, a cuddle your fur babies day, a tell somebody you love them day, a do something fun for yourself day, a eat something amazing day, a take a deep breath day, a you got this day, a good day, and if that is too much pressure, simply have a day. Because occasionally it is just too much. So just have a day. You are enough, just as you are. You are a beloved expression of the divine. Your spirit in motion, God in action, a brilliant light, a divine spark, a beautiful masterpiece, and a work in progress at the same time. I probably said spirit in motion, God in action. And as Reverend Jesse likes to remind us, we are godlings. All right? Explore the truth of your being. Get to know who the divine knows you to be. Because the divine knows you to be good. And from there, anything is possible. All right, beloveds. Reverend David should be on around 5 p.m. with you. I will be back tomorrow with you around 9:15. Tomorrow's is a page and a quarter, so I won't start wicked early. All right, beloveds. Take care of yourself. Know that you are loved, and I will see you next time.